Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna.
Hari Om. Let's get started. Today Sarika is with me here, and you'll see Sarika and our friends from the hills. We'll get started today. Hari Om.
सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। गीता ध्यानम्। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनी अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्रा येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तककेशवः। पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटं नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितम्। लोके सज्जनसत्परैरहरः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद्भारतपङ्कजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसिनः श्रेयसे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुवन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदे गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः
Hari Om. So as you can see, Sarika is with me, and pleasure to have Shurveer Singh Ji and Dr. Nautiyal, who are our hosts when we travel up in the Himalayas most of the time. They live in Sankri Sod, which is ahead of about 8 hours ahead of Dehradun. So I'm so happy that they are with us today. Very, very, very thrilled to have them here. So we'll start with today's satsang with, obviously, as always, a brief introduction of what we have done so far. So who is a yukta? So Bhagavan covers that in 3 verses that we saw in the last satsang. By the practice of yoga, and here when we are referring to yoga, we are talking about Dhyana Yoga. We are talking about Atma Samyama Yoga. Earlier, whenever Bhagavan said yoga, he was referring to Karma Yoga. But now we have graduated from Karma Yoga to Atma Samyama Yoga. So, by the practice of yoga, by the practice of dhyana, by the practice of nididhyasana, through the mind, seeing the self in the self, one who remains absolutely fulfilled is a yukta. Then Bhagavan says, established in the infinite bliss that is grasped by reason and transcending the senses, while transcending the senses, yet grasped by reason. One who does not move away from the truth is a yukta. And having experienced the pure consciousness, one who believes that there is nothing that is greater, and is, because of this belief, is unshaken by the heaviest of sorrows, is a yukta. And then Bhagavan says, how do you get to this stage? He says, withdraw. Withdraw slowly and steadily, step by step. First, let go of the gross aspects or elements, and then let go of the subtle aspects or elements. If the mind is allowed to express itself through the senses, then it becomes action. So, you have to not allow the mind to express itself. So the steps of withdrawal, let us take one example. Let us say that you want to shout when it is not necessary. Okay, if that is the example. The first step is drop the act of shouting, which is the grossest element here, the action of shouting. How does this happen? The subjective mind, you remember the input, process, output, sense organs, objective mind, intellect, subjective mind, organs of action, and back out to the world. So that subjective mind instructs the intellect to not act. The second step is drop the wanting, the want that is within us. Here, the subjective mind instructs the objective mind to remove the thought from the mind. They remove the thought of wanting to shout. Now, what remains after this? Let us say that the mind intellect recognizes the state of saying that I am wanting to shout. We have removed the shout, we have dropped it. We have removed the wanting. So what remains is I am. So Bhagavan says, drop the I, the identity, the individual aspect, the name, the definition that is given to the individual, the definition that is given to me. Drop that. And once that is also dropped, what remains is the I am, the experience of being. And this experience of being without the sense of individual is the experience of the cosmic being, the self. And Bhagavan says, drop the I am also. And once that total aspect, the cosmic being, is also dropped, then what remains is only pure consciousness. Remember, sometimes it may be when we are in this world of action, and the yukta also is in the world of action, even after becoming a yukta. there may be a necessity to express forcefully, to maybe even shout. For example, Sri Krishna in the beginning we saw dressing down of Arjuna. In the very beginning, the first thing when Sri Krishna starts speaking is he gives Arjuna a blasting. He has to. He cannot avoid it. So in that situation, the first two steps are taken in the reverse manner. If you don't want to shout, if you're too soft a person, then you have to work your mind towards saying that, yes, I have to get this done. I have to be forceful and expressive. And the last two steps, that of letting go of the I and the am, that help one ensure that the feeling does not remain. It goes away once the goal of the action is met. So in this manner, Bhagavan says, Shanaihi Shanair Uparame, slowly and steadily attain quietude. Two faculties, Bhagavan says, are required for this. Buddhi and Dhriti. Buddhya Dhriti Gridhitaya. Buddhi is knowledge and the clarity that comes from the knowledge. And Dhriti is the will, the determination, and the persistence that follows that determination. These two faculties are required for this kind of a journey. We can see this in any field, not just this kind of a journey. A person who gets success in material pursuit is also very capable of getting success in spiritual pursuit. The ingredients are Buddhi and Dhriti. But the direction is different. And when one walks the path of meditation, Bhagavan continues, there are a number of innumerable distractions. It is said that there are 4 kinds of distractions. The first kind of distraction is laya. Laya or sleep. What do you do when there is laya or sleep and when you're sitting down to meditate and that time sleep overtakes? What does one do? Laye sambodhaye chittam. One has to wake up the mind. Understand the cause of laya. Understand the cause that is making one fall asleep and then conquer that cause. Bhagavan actually touched upon a few of these. If we eat too much, the tendency will be to go to sleep. If we eat too less, the tendency can again be go to sleep or like Siddhartha, even fall unconscious. So find out, pinpoint the root cause and then make sure that you conquer that root cause. The second type of distraction is the Kshipta or the scattered, agitated mind. We saw that in the types of the mind. What is to be done when the mind is agitated? Vikshiptam shamayet punaha. Quieten the mind through effort. Immediately, right away. As soon as you see the disturbance, quieten it immediately through effort. The third kind of distraction is kashaya or dirt. In this context, kashaya is not the concentrated element like coffee decoction. In this context, kashaya means dirt. A dirt that expresses itself becomes a thought. And that kind of a thought can be quietened. But a kashaya is a vasana that does not express. It is there, but it cannot be distinguished. Exactly like the material in the kashaya. There are various materials, but you cannot distinguish each one of those. Similarly, a vasana or a mixture of vasanas that cannot be distinguished. And because they cannot be distinguished, there is no expression. Because there is no expression, what do? The mind gets stupefied. It gets stuck where it is. In that kind of a situation, what does one do? Sakashayam vijaniyet. Understand that there is kashaya. Understand that there is a stupefaction. Understand that there is something which is there, which is blocking, but we don't know what it is. We can't do anything about it. Like a dense fog. If you are driving on the road and there is extremely dense fog, what do? We switch on the headlight and we stay put. We do not, it's advised not to drive. Similarly, become aware that there is something and stay put. Like the fog goes away after some time, like it drifts away, this kashaya will go away. It will get diluted and it will get cleared. Stay put. Be aware and stay put. And the fourth type of distraction is Atma Rasa Aswadha. This is the desire to enjoy the experience of the self, that bliss. That bliss is also extremely intoxicating. That desire to get intoxicated in that bliss. Remember in the last satsang I had mentioned, that we should take that tour. It's the best tour that one can take into the self. That bliss. And the vasana to enjoy that bliss. It lingers. It remains. It's like the taste of that coffee which lingers 10-15 minutes after you have had it. The taste of that halwa that remains. It's called an after image. It's like, the vision of the Himalayas that I see even today. So that after image, that thought, that lingering of that enjoyment, that is the rasa aswada. So Bhagavan says, be the bliss. Do not taste the bliss. Do not objectify the self. One has to keep making the effort. So in a sense, what I said last time in the satsang was wrong. I cannot imagine that tour and say, oh, it was so beautiful. Let me do meditation. Why? Because I want to experience that bliss. Bhagavan says, no, do not objectify it. When you get there, just be. Being aware of these obstacles, being aware of these distractions and dealing with them helps this process of making progress in meditation. Otherwise, one will assume or one will think that one is making progress when actually the progress has not happened. It can be quite deceptive. So after explaining what meditation is and the steps to fine-tune the process of meditation, Bhagavan now comes to the result of meditation. We will take that up now in this satsang. We will recite verses 27 and 28 together.
Prashantamanasam yenam
Prashantamanasam yenam
yoginam sukhamuttamam
yoginam sukhamuttamam
upaiti shantarajasam
upaiti shantarajasam
brahmabhutamakalmasham
brahmabhutamakalmasham
yunjannivam sadatmanam
yunjan evam sadatmanam
yogi vigata kalmashaha
sukhena brahma samsparsham
atyantam
sukhamashnute
prashantamanasam yenam yoginam sukhamuttamam upaiti shantarajasam brahmabhutamakalmasham yunjannivam sadatmanam yogi vigata kalmashaha sukhena brahma samsparsham atyantam sukhamashnute.
Yenam yoginam. This yogi, he means surely. This yogi who is surely what? Prashanta manasam, of peaceful mind, whose mind is utterly quietened in the niruddha state, thoughtless state. And how did this yogi get into that state? Bhagavan gives two expressions. Shanta rajasam. The impetus of rajas has been dropped, has ended completely. The force which causes distraction and agitation has been completely calmed down, because the awareness of the distraction and the ability to deal with the distraction which we just discussed. And because of that, Shantam Rajasam. It is Rajas that causes the mind to break into various thought ripples. And when it is not there, the peace enters the mind on its own. So it is important to remove the Rajas. And then Bhagavan says, Akalmasham. Akalmasham means free of dirt of thoughts. Remember in the beginning when Bhagavan chided Arjuna, when he blasted up Arjuna, he said, Kalmasha, what kind of dirt is there in your mind? So Akalmasham, taking the dirt out. The passions in the mind are quietened. This is the aspect of tamas. And the mind becomes bereft of tamas. Once you remove the aspect of rajas and the aspect of tamas, what remains is pure sattva, the sattvic state of the mind. And such a yogi, Bhagavan says, upaiti, reaches. Upaiti means attains, reaches. Reaches what or attains what? Sukham uttamam, supreme bliss. And such a yogi has become Brahma Bhutam, attained the being of the Brahman. So Bhagavan is essentially telling us that before you can become that yukta, before you can become that yogi, you need to have this amount of peace in you. And how does he say that? Is what we just went through. It's like, before a president or a prime minister is visiting, let's say the president of United Kingdom was supposed to visit us for Republic Day, right? Before that, the staff come to that place of visit to ensure that everything is in a ready state to receive the dignitary in a fitting manner. All that is put in place. The security, the comfort, everything, so that the dignitary can work and get what is to be done, what is intended to be done, executed properly. Similarly, before Bhagavan reveals himself in the heart of the devotee, he ensures that there is purity, there is devotion, there is faith, and other divine qualities that are brought into the mind. And the disturbances and the distractions, the rajas and the tamas, all of them are quietened down. And then Bhagavan continues in the next verse that this yogi, always engaging in the self, sadatmanam, always focused on the self. And how does he do this? Through the practice of yoga. Yunjam evam. Through the practice of yoga, focused on the self, freed of all the sins, vigata kalmashaha, easily enjoys. Sukham means easily. Sukhena. Sukhena means easily. Ashnute. Easily enjoys. Enjoys what? The infinite bliss. Atyantam sukham, which arises out of close contact with the Brahman. Brahma samsparshanam, close contact with the Brahman. I want to give an example which I have also used earlier. The philosopher's stone is a mythical alchemical substance that is capable of turning some metals into gold. It is also called the elixir of life and is used for rejuvenation and for achieving immortality. It was, or even now, in some cultures, it is the symbol of perfection. And it is the finest symbol of enlightenment or heavenly bliss. Heavenly bliss, remember that. Bhagavan also talks about Atyantam Sukham, heavenly bliss, ultimate bliss, infinite bliss. Efforts to discover the philosopher's stone were known as magnum opus or great work. So this allegory has come from the path that Bhagavan Sri Krishna has laid out for us to get to this Atyantam Sukham or eternal bliss. And what is this path? It is a magnum opus. It is hard work. That path of Karma Yoga, then Chitta Shuddhi, Sadhana Chatushtaya, Arurukshaha, Yoga Rudha. We have seen all of this. Nididhyasana, Atma Shakshatkara, Paravairagya, Niruddha. And then when you are in that Niruddha state and still continue, you get Brahma Samsparshanam, close contact with Brahman. And that then leads to this heavenly bliss or infinite bliss, Atyantam Sukham. So it's probably this Brahman which is the real philosopher's stone. whoever is able to complete this magnum opus and attains contact with Brahman gets transformed. There is the story of Narendra, who later on became Swami Vivekananda. He said to his guru, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he said, I feel like I'm a fly sitting on the edge of this large bowl. You know, obviously, when you are with somebody like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, you know, he says, I feel like this small fly sitting on the edge of this large bowl filled with nectar. And then I'm inserting my proboscis slowly, surely, and enjoying the nectar little by little by little. But he says, Swamiji, I'm also careful not to fall into this bowl, lest I may drown into it. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa told him, if it is Amrit, Narendra, then why worry about drowning? Because Amrit is the exile of life. Why worry? Plunge into it. And that's the plunge which later led him to become Swami Vivekananda. What are the effects of yoga on the yogi who is out of samadhi? Now, Bhagavan till now has talked about how to get into this deep process of meditation, how to get deep into samadhi, savikalpa samadhi and then nirvikalpa samadhi, single thought and then no thought. But now Bhagavan will talk about how is this person when the person comes out of samadhi? How does he perceive oneness in this world which is, you know, pluralistic? How does she interact in this pluralistic world? In the next 4 verses, Sri Krishna says that such a yogi goes through 4 degrees of maturity. We'll go through them one by one. Verse 29.
Sarvabhutastamatmanam
Sarvabhutastamatmanam
Sarvabhutani Chatmani
Sarvabhutani Chatmani
Ikshate Yoga Yuktatma
Ikshate Yoga Yuktatma
Sarvatra Samadarshanaha
Sarvatra Samadarshanaha
Sarvabhutastamatmanam Sarvabhutani Chatmani Ikshate Yoga Yuktatma Sarvatra Samadarshanaha.
Yoga Yuktatma. Yoga Yuktatma is one who is harmonized by yoga. One who is yukta, united with yoga, harmonized by yoga. Bhagavan says that Yoga Yuktatma, Ikshate, he sees. And what does he see? Atmanam, the self, abiding in all beings. Atmanam Sarva Bhutastam or Sarva Bhutastam Atmanam. So this yogi who is harmonized by yoga sees the self abiding in all beings, Sarva Bhutatma or Sarva Bhutastam. And also Sarva Bhutani, all beings in the self, Atmani. And then Sarvatra, everywhere, Samadarshanaha, sees the same or sees equally. So this person who is a Yoga Yuktatma, one who is harmonized by yoga, one who has let go of this am also and has the clarity of the real nature, the tattva, such a person, ikshate, or sees the self abiding in all beings and all beings in the self. This yogi sees the oneness in all creation of Bhagavan. So when you see that oneness, you are able to easily practice that yajna spirit that Bhagavan talked about earlier. The spirit of sacrifice, where you first give to the rest of the elements in the planet, in the creation, and then receive whatever comes your way. So the oneness in creation, when you see a part of yourself in everything else, and a part of everything else in yourself, that oneness. the similarity of the nature of all beings, whether it be a dog or a cat or a leopard or a bull or a cow or a plant or a leaf or a flower or a stone, whatever it may be. This yogi, Sarvatra Samadarshanaha, has an equal view about everything. In chapter 5, if you remember chapter 5 verse 19, Bhagavan had said, Ihaivatayjata sargo yesham samye sthitam manaha nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmad brahmani te sthitaha. There he said, even while living in this world, this yogi is not carried away by variety. That is what this verse means. And there we had seen that fundamentally there are three kinds of varieties. Let's quickly go through those again. The first is Vijatiya Bhava, different elements of creation, stones, plants, animals, human beings, and so on. The second is the Sajatiya Bhava, differences within the same elements, in the same elements. For example, marble stone versus granite stone, mango tree versus tamarind tree, Alsatian dog versus poodle, white people, brown people, yellow people, black people. And then the Swagata Bhava. Swagata Bhava is differences within the entity, such as rock versus slab, root, bark, stem, leaf, one eye blind, one limb shorter than the other, and so on and so forth. So these are the differences that one can perceive in creation. And Bhagavan says this Yoga Yuktatma transcends these differences. Now, if we go back to science, which we did earlier, the particle theory or the kinetic theory of matter, it says that all matter consists of many very small particles, which are constantly moving, constantly in interaction with each other. The degree to which the particles move is determined by the amount of energy they have and their relationship with other particles, the space that is there between each of them. And when quarks were discovered, it was found that quarks are particles that create subatomic protons. These quarks hold on stronger, tightly together when there is a force that is applied to separate them, as if they are bound tightly together. And this is all scientifically shown, proven. It's like people, when you try to forcefully separate people, they bond with each other. They get closer to each other. Like I often say, the best thing for human unity would be if there is an attack from outer space. So does this mean that these quarks, which bind so diligently with each other, what does it mean that we are not able to visibly see a single quark? Now, something that cannot be seen by itself, can it even exist? That's the question Stephen Hawking asks. And then he says, and I quote, he says, quarks exist only as far as we can go. This is called model dependent reality and leads directly to the meaning of life, unquote. Similarly, Bhagavan says, differences in creation exist only as far as you human beings have made them out to be. He says this Yoga Yuktatma sees the same everywhere, in all of my creation. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said, assuming individuality to oneself, like thinking that I am this individual, Srini, assuming individuality to oneself is like putting a dam on a small portion of the river Ganges. And then that little water that is dammed by this dam, claiming it as if it's one's own. That's the level of foolishness attributed to assuming individuality. So Bhagavan said this even before, the yogi got into meditation. We just saw that, right? He said it earlier also. Didn't he do that? Now Bhagavan takes us to the next degree. We'll go to verse 30.
यो मां पश्यति सर्वत्र
Yo mam pashyati sarvatra
सर्वं च मयि पश्यति
sarvam cha mai pashyati
तस्याहं न प्रणश्यामि
tasyaham na pranashyami
स च मे न प्रणश्यति
sachame na pranashyati.
यो मां पश्यति सर्वत्र सर्वं च मयि पश्यति तस्याहं न प्रणश्यामि स च मे न प्रणश्यति
Yo mam. See, Sanskrit is a beautiful language. Yaha, ma. So that's what Sanskrit is combining into yo mam. Yaha means who. Now, who is Bhagavan referring to? This Yoga Yuktatma that he just spoke about. Yoga Shastra actually uses the term Rithambara Pragya for this person, for this Yoga Yuktatma. Pragya means special comprehension. And that special comprehension reveals the Ritham. Ritham means the truth, the Tattva. So this Yoga Yukta, this Rithambara Pragya, who is one with the higher level of clarity. That comes from where? That comes from Nirvikalpa Samadhi. This person, Bhagavan says, Mam Pashyati Sarvatra, sees me everywhere. So he has gone one step higher. Earlier he talked about the self, seeing myself in other selves, in other beings, in other bhuta. And other bhuta everywhere else, including me. Here Bhagavan is saying, Mam Pashyati Sarvatra, sees me everywhere. And he says, Sarvam cha mai pashyati, and sees everything in me. So what a beautiful way. In fact, we see this, by the way. Okay, there is this popular Bollywood song, that depicts love. I have long time since I have talked about a song. Okay, and when we love Krishna, don't we all become gopis? It doesn't matter, whether male, female, whoever, human being. All human beings are gopis then. So this Bollywood song is so beautiful. And it's actually, for us and God, if you look at it that way. Aame teri yaad mein sabko bhula dun, duniya ko teri tasveer bana dun. मेरा बस चले तो दिल चीर के दिखा दूं. Hanuman did that. He opened his heart. दुनिया को तेरी तस्वीर बना दूं. So in everything, see me. And sees everything in me. दौड़ रहा है साथ लहू के, प्यार तेरा नस नस में, सब कुछ तेरे बस में कृष्णा. I'm changing it. कुछ नहीं हो मेरे बस में, दिल क्या करे जब मन में तू ही तू बस जाए. मन क्या करे जब दिल में तेरा ही प्यार उभर आए. And this kind of a person, if we can see Bhagavan everywhere and in everything Bhagavan. And Bhagavan says, for such a person, tasya, for such a person, aham na pranashyami. I am not a distant entity. Pranashyami literally means that I don't cease. I don't cease for this person. Meaning for such a person, I am not lost to her. I am not absent to her. It's like that, walking in the sand, where you tell Bhagavan, I saw 2 footprints. I saw you with me all the time. But when I am in trouble, I saw only 1 footprint. Bhagavan says, I was carrying you, my child. I am not distant from her. And Bhagavan says, Sacha mena pranashyati. This person is not distant from me, does not cease for me, is not lost to me, not absent to me. And taking this a degree further, Bhagavan says in the next verse,
Sarvabhutastitam yo mam
Sarvabhutastitam yo mam
bhajati kattvamastitaha
bhajatyekattvamastitaha
sarvada vartamanopi
sarvatha vartamanopi
sayogi mai vartate
sayogi mai vartate.
Sarvabhutastitam yo mam bhajati kattvamastitaha sarvada vartamanopi sayogi mai vartate.
Again, yaha. Yaha means he, who, this person, this yogi, this yoga yuktatma, astitaha, established. Established where? Ekatvam, unity, in unity. And this person established in that unity, bhajati, worships, mam, worships me, sarva bhutastitam, abiding in all beings, worships me. And Bhagavan says, sa yogi, that yogi, vartate mai, abides in me. Sarvatha vartamanaha, whatever be the state of his life, remaining in whatever state. And that state includes what? Includes sex, age, nationality, performing any action, doing anything. Whatever this person is, whoever this person is, this person abides in me. Look at the example that Sri Krishna himself, Sri Krishna who? The avatar Sri Krishna. Look at the example that he is setting. We talked about avatar, right? So I'll not go into that. You please go back and revise if you want. That avatar Sri Krishna, in the battlefield, exposing himself to the dangers more than anyone else. Why more than anyone else? First of all, he is the charioteer of the most wanted. The enemy who do they want? Because they know that if Arjuna is done with, then Pandavas have lost. So get hold of Arjuna. Duryodhana's clear instructions to Bhishma: kill Arjuna. Because he knows that once Arjuna is gone, Pandavas are gone. The most wanted. And Bhagavan Sri Krishna, the avatar Sri Krishna, charioteer to Arjuna. Not only that, has taken oath, I will not pick up any weapon. I will not guard myself. So not only will I be charioteer, which means I'm going to be in front of the person who is most wanted, front of the person who is most hunted. But I'm also not going to pick up any weapon. And only weapons that he has are his irresistible smile. You know, this person, I'm forgetting his name now, who acted in this Mahabharata serial, no, which came in Doordarshan long back, got repeated recently during COVID. Nitish Bharadwaj, yeah, right, that's true. Shubha, thank you. He does a brilliant job actually. You know, the disarming smile, he depicts Sri Krishna's disarming smile very well. But Sri Krishna doesn't have only the disarming smile. He also has, in addition to the disarming smile, he has that look which comes with the buddhi and the dhriti. So all these expressions are beautifully depicted. The disarming smile and the expression, the look of the buddhi, dhriti working, coming forth into expression. And all this becoming the central personality of the Mahabharata. Imagine, Nihatta they say in Hindi, you know, Sri Krishna Nihatta, battlefield mein, Arjuna ke samne, the most wanted. And then he becomes the central character of the entire war. And he is not playing Bhagavan, by the way. He is just an avatar, an ordinary charioteer. Every night he cleans the horses. This means that the person of realization will, in all conditions, be able to enter into any activity and still maintain within herself that unbroken connect with the divine. It's like, have you ever noticed, how service defines our lives? We serve many, many masters. Like Krishna served Arjuna in the war. Not just by reciting Bhagavad Gita, he served all of us by reciting Bhagavad Gita. But in the actual war, he served Arjuna as a charioteer. Similarly, our life is actually full of service, if you see. It puts us in situations where we have no choice but to serve. We sacrifice our time, our money in the service of employers, creditors, family, friends. We also serve ourselves. We submit to our own physical needs, our own mental cravings. We are servants to the calendar. We are servants to the clock. So there is a story about a young man who was ambitious, and he resolved to attain his goals by serving the greatest person that he could find or that he knew. So he went to the village and he found the Mukhya, the Sarpanch of the village, the leader of the village, and he became an indispensable aid to the village leader. One day a district collector came, to the village. The DC or the collector, he comes and, the village leader is obediently listening to whatever the collector is saying, doing as per his bidding. And this young man says, oh my God, so there is someone more powerful than my leader. So he leaves the village and starts working for the collector. One day the collector takes this young man for a meeting with the minister. There he sees the minister is more powerful. So he says, oh my God, the minister is more powerful, goes and starts service to the minister. And as he's serving the minister, one day the minister goes to the king. And the young man thinks, I have found the most powerful person in this world. So I must serve this person, the king. And he becomes a courtier in the king's court. And one morning he sees the king go to Krishna's temple and bow his head. And then this young man realizes that the ultimate service is to Lord Krishna. So what's the result of worshipping Bhagavan? What is the result of understanding the importance of this worship? That Bhagavan talks about now.
Atmaupamyena sarvatra
Atmaupamyena sarvatra
samam pashyati Arjuna
samam pashyati Arjuna
sukham va yadi va dukkham
sukham va yadi va dukkham
sayogi paramo mataha
sayogi paramo mataha.
Atmaupamyena sarvatra samam pashyati Arjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sayogi paramo mataha.
So Bhagavan says, oh Arjuna, yaha who atmaupamyena, by the reason of similarity of self, by understanding of this similarity of the self which is within me is very similar to the self in the creation which is all around me. Sarvatra, in all beings, everything, all creations. Pashyati, sees, samam, as equal. And because the person is able to see as equal, sukham va yadi va dukkham, the pleasure and or the pain. There may be pleasure, there may be pain, whatever it may be. Sa yogi paramo mataha. This yogi is regarded as supreme. The person who, by reason of this understanding of the self being similar, is able to see the pleasure, the pain, everything, all the experiences as the same, that yogi is supreme. This yogi, actually, we all see that, right? The learned saints, they bless. When they bless, what do they say? Sarvesham swasthir bhavatu. Sarvesham shantir bhavatu. Sarvesham purnam bhavatu. Sarvesham mangalam bhavatu. Wishing well for all of creation. Because, why? Because he judges pleasure or pain, whatever it may be, pleasure and pain, if everything is there, everywhere by the same standard as he will do for himself. What is for myself is for all the other selves, which is essentially similar in nature. Another interpretation is that the joy of others is a joy for this sage also. The sorrow or the pain of others is a pain for this sage also. And thus, this sage is an embodiment of supreme compassion. And because of this, she, Sayogi, Paramo Mataha, is regarded as supreme. So a holy man was passing through the main street in a village and chanced upon a landlord who was mercilessly thrashing, belaboring a tenant of his. And this yogi, stepped in by want, by nature, stepped in on behalf of the helpless victim. But what happened? The landlord started, now the fury was directed towards the yogi for interfering and thrashed the holy man to an extent that the holy man got badly injured and fell unconscious. He was carried to his ashram and it took a long time, a few days, for him to regain consciousness. And when he regained consciousness, he saw this person who was tending on him, helping him, giving him the medicine, rubbing the medicine on his injuries and so on and so forth. And this man saw that Swamiji Yogi had come to, and he said, "Oh, Revered One, do you recognize me?" In a gentle but clear voice came the unexpected answer. "The hand that beat then is nursing now." So the feeling of the offender, the feeling of the offended, the feeling of the repentant, nothing was touching this saint. So with this, Bhagavan Sri Krishna finishes the teaching of dhyana or meditation, Atma Samyama Yoga. Beautifully, he has explained step by step the very small little aspects of how one should find a seat, what kind of posture one should have, to the extreme of how do you bring your mind from multiple thoughts to single thought to no thought, and then let go of the no thought also. So extremely routine, simple, administrative aspects to the most complicated aspects. Obviously, the most complicated aspects are the ones that bother us, right? How many of us think that this is all beyond me? This is impossible. This is too much. It's not going to happen. It's not possible. We try sitting, we try focusing, then we can forget it. Let's come out of it. How many of us think that we are doing meditation, but actually we are not? So Arjuna makes a similar point. We'll read the next two verses together.
Arjuna Uvacha
Arjuna Uvacha
Yoyam Yogastvaya Proktaha
Yoyam Yogastvaya Proktaha
Samyena Madhusudhana
Samyena Madhusudhana
Etasyaham na pashyami
Etasyaham na pashyami
Chanchalatva sthitim sthiram
Chanchalatva sthitim sthiram
Chanchalam himanah Krishna
Chanchalam himanah Krishna
Pramati balavadridam
Pramati balavadridam
Tasyaham nigraham manye
Tasyaham nigraham manye
Vayuriva sudushkaram
Vayoriva sudushkaram.
Arjuna Uvasha Yoyam Yogastvaya Proktaha Samyena Madhusudhana Etasyaham na pashyami Chanchalatva sthitim sthiram Chanchalam himanah Krishna Pramati balavadridam Tasyaham nigraham manye Vayuriva sudushkaram.
So we saw earlier, the beautiful use of Bhagavan Sri Krishna's name by Arjuna. Again, he couple of very wonderful usage of addressing Bhagwan. Hey Madhusudana, he says first initially. Madhusudana is the slayer of the demon Madhu, and thereby protector of Vedas. We saw the story earlier also, Madhusudana story. Okay, Madhu had stolen the Vedas, and Bhagavan Sri Krishna by intelligence had conquered this demon by asking him to give his own life, because he had taken this vow of nobody can eliminate me, but he was a giver. And we also saw earlier that Madhu came from where? This demon Madhu, he came from the wax of Narayana's ear. The term Madhu for honey originates from this, because it also comes from the wax, the bee wax, the hive wax. And what is the result? This wax is the result of extreme hard work, magnum opus of the bee. The bees take pollen one by one, create a hive meticulously, and they store it in the hive, the pollens. This requires consistency, it requires focus, it requires repeated effort, extreme hard work, magnum opus, like I said. And the result of all of this is the sweet honey. Similarly, meditation requires consistency, requires focus, requires repeated effort and extreme hard work. And the result of all of this is equanimity. But Arjuna has not understood it. Arjuna's use of Bhagwan here is very appropriate, without thinking about Madhusudana, the slayer of the demon Madhu, but how appropriate it also is. And what does he ask? He says, Yoyam yogaha, this yoga, this great wisdom of meditation, Tvaya proktaha, which by you has been taught. Proktaha, taught. Tvaya, by you. Explained like I just said, in great detail. The small points, the big points, the highest level, all of that. Samyena, which is characterized by samatva, by equanimity. And the result of which is also an equipoised mind, a mind that perceives all of creation as similar. Samaha. Arjuna says, Etasya sthitam stiram. Its persistent and steady existence, aham na pashyami, I do not see. For it to be persistent and steady, it has to be for you to achieve that yoga yuktatma state. Arjuna says, its persistent and steady existence, sthitam stiram. Sthitam, persistent, sthiram, steady. He does not see. Aham na pashyami. Not able to conceive of its possibility. And why does he say? He explains that. Because he says, chanchalavat, the mind is restless by nature. And he says this chanchala manaha, this mind is surely so restless. Chalam is something that is not still, keeps moving. And chanchalam is something that is extremely wavering. Chanchalam atyankta chalam. Atyankta. Extremity of chalam is chanchalam. Extremity of restlessness is chanchalam. So this mind is extremely restless, not just restless, extremely restless. And then he says, not just is it chanchala, it is also pramati. Pramati means turbulent. Powerful agitating force is turbulence. The entire aircraft, it shakes like crazy. A very powerful agitating force. And balavada, it's also very strong. Not only it is fickle, it is moving around, it is agitated, it is turbulent, but it is also extremely strong. Like this aircraft which does not break in that turbulence. Once it has got hold of a thought, it does not let go. In Tamil it is said, Udumbu Pidi. Very strong hold. It's a mental stronghold. And he says it is also dridam, unyielding. it does not yield because of the enormous vasanas that are part of making up this mind. All these inherent tendencies that we all come with. Some of it part of our genetic code, some of it that we have accumulated throughout our lives. All the inherent tendencies. Vasanas are nothing but inherent tendencies. Because of those, it is unyielding, it is dridam. And Arjuna says, Tasya, this kind of mind, that mind which is extremely fickle and agitated, the mind that is extremely strong and unyielding, that kind of a mind, aham manye, I consider, I believe, I think. Sudushkaram. Sudushkaram means difficult. Difficult to what? Nigraham, to control. And he gives an example. Vayuraiva. Vayuraiva means Vayuraiva, just like the wind, like a powerful wind, like a tornado or a cyclone. Like a powerful, strong blowing wind is so difficult to control. You can do nothing. You can just get out of the way also. That also becomes difficult. Similarly, I think, I believe that this mind is difficult to control. And he says, Hey Krishna. Earlier he said, Oh Madhusudana. Now he says, Hey Krishna. Krishna means remover of sins. Oh, remover of sins. Remember, Sri Krishna himself had told Arjuna and all of us earlier that sin is what? Sin is nothing but disturbance within the mind. Chapter 2, where he had said, Sukha dukkhe same kritva labha labhau jaya jayau tato yuddhaya yujyasva naivam papam avapsyasi. That papa, Bhagavan that time says that if you keep everything sama, and it's very relevant here because here he says this yoga yuktatma takes everything sama. So all the extremities, if you are balanced, equipoised among those extremities, the papa does not enter your mind. The disturbances in your mind do not get generated. That's sin. The remover of sins, the remover of a disturbed mind. Yielding in what? A peaceful mind. Krish means to plow, to process, like you have the ploughing of the field, so as to process the grains. And Na means the Lord of. So thus Krishna is the Lord of the ploughing and the processing of the mind. The process of culturing the mind, which is like Arjuna says, Chanchalam, Pramati, Balavad, Dridam. Culturing of that kind of a mind, this Sri Krishna does. And he now shows how that is to be done. That we will take up in the next satsang.
Chapter 6, verses 27 to 34. Prashantamanasam yenam yoginam sukhamuttamam upaiti shantarajasam brahmabhutamakalmasham yunjannivam sadatmanam yogi vigatakalmashaha sukhena brahma samsparsham atyantam sukhamashnuti sarvabhutastamatmanam sarvabhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam shamai pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sachamena pranashyati sarvabhutastitam yo mam bhajati kattvamastitaha sarvata vartamanopi sayogi mai vartate atmaupamyena sarvatra samam pashyati arjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sayogi paramo mataha arjuna uvacha yoyam yogastvaya proktaha samyena madhusudana etasyaham na pashyami chanchalatva sthitim sthiram chanchalam hi mana krishna pramati balavadridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayodiva sudushkaram. ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ
Hari Om. Thank you. Any thoughts, comments, and questions?
Can you see this picture in my book?
Yes, we
Peacock.
can.
Peacock feathered Krishna in everything, including the peacock. It's a beautiful picture. Tiny Krishna in everything.
Oh, wow. Any other thought, questions anyone has?
काफी लोग जुड़े होंगे आपके इससे
हाँ जी, काफी लोग हैं।
सब जुड़ रहे होंगे सबने सुना
इसमें दिखता है
हाँ अच्छी बात है ये तो ज्ञान है बहुत ऊंची
Any thoughts? आज लगता है questions नहीं है तो okay. ठीक है, if there's nothing more, then we'll say Hari Om and meet. Hopefully next time I'll be able to complete chapter 6. I'll try to complete chapter 6 in the next satsang. Thank you, Hari Om. Hari Om, everyone. Thank you.